Picture this: dust swirling through empty streets, the distant sound of spurs clinking on wooden boardwalks, and saloon doors creaking in the wind. The Wild West wasn't just a Hollywood invention. It was a real, gritty chapter of American history. But here's what most people don't realize. Many of the most iconic features that define these legendary settlements have completely vanished from the modern world. Welcome back to the channel. I'm about to take you on a journey through time to explore 10 fascinating features of Wild West towns that have faded into history. Some of these will surprise you, others might make you nostalgic for an era you never experienced, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why these frontier communities were unlike anything we see today. So grab your hat and saddle up. We're heading back to the 1800s. But before we ride into the sunset of history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming up in our future episodes about America's forgotten past. Let's start with something that was absolutely essential to every Wild West town, yet you'd be hard-pressed to find one today. The first feature on our list is the town water trough, and I'm not talking about a simple drinking fountain. These massive wooden or metal containers were the lifeblood of frontier settlements, serving both humans and animals. They were typically positioned right in the center of town, often fed by hand-pumped wells or natural springs. Cowboys would water their horses here, travelers would refill their canteens, and surprisingly, these troughs often served as impromptu bathing spots for dusty riders who'd been on the trail for days. What made these troughs so unique was their communal nature. Unlike today's individualized water systems, the town trough was a gathering place where information was exchanged, deals were made, and social hierarchies were established. The cleanliness of a town's water trough often indicated its prosperity and organization. Well-maintained troughs meant a thriving community, while neglected ones signaled a settlement on its last legs. Moving on to our second vanished feature, we encounter something that might shock modern sensibilities: the public hanging platform. Now, before you think this is getting too dark, let me explain the historical context. These weren't just instruments of justice. They were complex social and architectural features that played multiple roles in frontier society. Most Wild West towns had a designated area, often a permanent wooden platform, specifically constructed for public executions. What's fascinating is that these platforms weren't hidden away. They were typically built in prominent locations, sometimes right in the town square, because public hangings served as both deterrent and entertainment in an era before television, radio, or even regular traveling shows. The construction of these platforms was often a community effort, and their presence indicated that a settlement had evolved beyond vigilante justice to a more organized legal system, however rough it might seem by today's standards. The third feature that's completely disappeared from modern American towns is the dedicated hitching post district. Every Wild West settlement had an extensive network of wooden posts, rails, and rings where horses could be safely secured. But this wasn't just about convenience. The arrangement of hitching posts revealed the town's social and economic structure. The most ornate hitching posts were reserved for the wealthiest visitors and positioned closest to the most important buildings like the bank or the finest hotel. Simpler posts lined the main street for everyday cowboys and travelers, while basic rails on the outskirts served those of more modest means. Some towns even had covered hitching areas, early versions of parking garages, if you will, that protected valuable horses from the harsh frontier weather. What's particularly interesting is that many of these hitching post networks were more sophisticated than modern parking systems. They included feeding troughs, grooming areas, and even primitive security measures to prevent horse theft, which was considered one of the most serious crimes of the era. Our fourth disappeared feature brings us to something that was absolutely crucial for frontier commerce: the outdoor market stalls and trading posts. Unlike the permanent brick-and-mortar stores we're familiar with today, Wild West towns relied heavily on temporary wooden stalls. and semi-permanent trading structures that could be quickly assembled and disassembled. These weren't just simple market stands. They were ingeniously designed portable structures that could transform an empty lot into a bustling marketplace within hours. Traveling merchants would arrive with prefabricated stall components that could be bolted together, complete with awnings, display cases, and storage areas. The entire economy of smaller frontier towns often revolved around these periodic markets. What made these trading posts so unique was their flexibility. A single space might host a vegetable seller in the morning, a blacksmith in the afternoon, and a traveling preacher in the evening. This adaptability was essential in communities where the population and economic needs could change dramatically from week to week. The fifth vanished feature might surprise you with its sophistication: elaborate wooden sidewalk systems. When we think of Wild West towns, we often picture simple wooden boardwalks, but the reality was much more complex. Successful frontier settlements developed intricate elevated walkway networks that connected multiple buildings and even crossed streets. These weren't just flat boards thrown over the mud. They featured multiple levels, built-in seating areas, covered sections for weather protection, and even primitive drainage systems underneath. The most prosperous towns had sidewalks with decorative railings, lamp posts, and designated areas for hitching horses without blocking pedestrian traffic. The engineering behind these wooden walkway systems was remarkable for its time. They had to be strong enough to support heavy foot traffic and horse-drawn carts, flexible enough to withstand extreme weather changes, and modular enough to be expanded as the town grew. Many featured hidden storage compartments underneath for merchants to keep goods secure overnight. Now, let's talk about our sixth disappeared feature: the town crier system and public message boards. In an era before telephones, radio, or newspapers reaching remote settlements regularly, Wild West towns developed sophisticated communication networks centered around designated public information areas. Every significant town had at least one official message board, usually positioned near the main crossroads or in front of the most important building. These weren't simple bulletin boards. They were elaborate wooden structures with multiple sections for different types of information: wanted posters, town announcements, personal messages, business advertisements, and even primitive weather reports. But here's what made the system truly unique. Many towns employed official town criers who would walk predetermined routes throughout the day, shouting important news and announcements. These weren't just random people with loud voices. They were often respected community members who served as living newspapers, carrying news between settlements and maintaining the social fabric of frontier life. Our seventh vanished feature takes us into the realm of frontier entertainment, the traveling show platforms and temporary theaters. Long before permanent entertainment venues, Wild West towns relied on adaptable spaces that could transform from mundane daily use to spectacular evening entertainment. These platforms were architectural marvels of simplicity and functionality. They could be assembled in a few hours using standardized wooden components, complete with basic lighting systems using oil lamps or early gas fixtures, simple curtain systems for scene changes, and tiered seating areas that could accommodate the entire town population. What's remarkable is how these temporary venues fostered community identity. A town's ability to attract and host quality traveling shows was a mark of prestige and prosperity. The platform itself became a symbol of the community's cultural aspirations and economic success. The eighth feature on our list might seem mundane, but it was absolutely vital: communal outdoor kitchens and food preparation areas. Unlike today's private kitchens in every home, many Wild West residents relied on shared cooking facilities, especially in the early stages of town development. These outdoor kitchen complexes were sophisticated operations featuring multiple fire pits with adjustable cooking surfaces, large communal ovens built from stone or brick, shared food storage areas with primitive refrigeration using ice houses or cold springs, and designated spaces for food preservation activities like smoking, and curing meat. These communal kitchens weren't just about practical necessity. They were social centers where recipes were shared, news was exchanged, and community bonds were strengthened. The management of these facilities often fell to the most respected women in the community, giving them significant informal political power. Our ninth disappeared feature reveals the ingenious problem-solving spirit of frontier communities, mobile jail cells, and temporary justice systems. Unlike the permanent stone jails we might imagine, many Wild West towns relied on portable justice infrastructure that could be moved, expanded, or even shared between settlements. These mobile jails were fascinating pieces of engineering, essentially wooden or metal cages on wheels that could be positioned wherever needed. They featured basic amenities for short-term confinement, secure locking mechanisms that couldn't be easily broken, and were designed to be intimidating enough to deter crime while practical enough for transport between communities. Some towns even shared a single mobile jail system, moving it from settlement to settlement as needed. This cooperative approach to frontier justice was both economical and effective, allowing smaller communities to maintain law and order without the expense of building permanent facilities. Finally, our 10th and perhaps most fascinating vanished feature, the town's central bonfire pit and gathering circle. Every successful Wild West settlement had a designated area for community gatherings, centered around a permanent fire pit that served multiple crucial functions. These weren't simple campfire spots. They were carefully engineered community centers featuring stone-lined fire pits designed for both cooking and warmth. Circular seating arrangements carved into the ground or built from local materials, designated areas for storytelling, music, and community meetings, and primitive weather protection using temporary canvas or wooden structures. The bonfire circle was where frontier democracy actually happened. Town decisions were made, disputes were resolved, news was shared, and community bonds were forged. These gathering places were so central to frontier life that their abandonment often marked the beginning of a town's decline. So there you have it, 10 incredible features of Wild West towns that have completely faded from American life. From the essential water troughs that sustained both man and beast, to the sophisticated wooden sidewalk systems that rivaled modern urban planning, these forgotten elements reveal a frontier society far more complex and ingenious than Hollywood ever portrayed. These vanished features remind us that the Wild West wasn't just about gunfights and saloons. It was about communities of remarkable people creating civilization from scratch in one of the harshest environments imaginable. They developed solutions to problems we can barely imagine, using nothing but ingenuity, cooperation, and sheer determination. What strikes me most about these lost features is how they fostered community in ways our modern world often lacks. The shared water troughs, communal kitchens, and gathering circles created bonds between neighbors that were essential for survival on the frontier. If this journey through forgotten frontier history fascinated you, you're going to love what we have coming up next week. We're exploring the mysterious ghost towns of the American Southwest and the incredible stories of why entire communities simply vanished overnight. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss it. What surprised you most about these vanished Wild West features? Have you ever visited any historic frontier towns that still have remnants of these elements? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing your perspectives on American frontier history. Until next time, keep exploring the forgotten corners of our past. And remember, history isn't just about the famous figures and major events. Sometimes the most fascinating stories are hidden in the everyday details of how ordinary people lived extraordinary lives.